I've always heard the adage that advanced technology, sufficiently ahead of where we are now, would be indistinguishable from magic. Now the question really is, can religion, significantly advanced, look like magic? Or maybe witchcraft? Either way, this week we're talking about Servant on the Everyman Movie Review. Hey everybody, it's Rob. Welcome to yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. I'm excited to talk about this week's selection, and I hope that you're excited too. If you can't wait for the next episode of the Everyman Movie Review, make sure you're hitting subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you know when the new episode's available. This week, we're going to do something a little different. I think I said about 2 episodes ago that I don't do series on this review. I try to stick mainly to movies, but I did a little wandering into Apple TV, and I've basically been blown away all week long after I find series after series after series of really fantastic shows. What I didn't find necessarily was someone who said, hey, these are basically a cinematic experience. This is essentially Game of Thrones, but on a much smaller scale, and it's available for you on streaming right now. So as we wrap up quarantine, I was really thinking, you know what? Let me talk about these shows, and we'll discuss a couple of series that'll take a little more of your time than the average movie, but will also be just as enjoyable as any of those movies. First up is Servant. Servant is a horror mystery thriller series, again available on Apple TV. It's brought to you by executive producers Jason Blumhouse and M. Night Shaymalan. So if you don't know what you're getting into just based on those names, I don't know what I can do for you. The series has a fantastic cast, starting at the top with Lauren Ambrose in what I think must be her best portrayal ever. Just from beginning to the end, Lauren has done some amazing work on this series. It's also starring Toby Kebbell, who you probably don't know by name, but as soon as you see his face, you're going to know exactly who he is. Someone who I came to learn about through this series, Nell Free, plays Leanne. She's the nanny that comes into the home. A surprising face, didn't see him on any of the marketing materials. Rupert Grint comes in as Julian. Tony Revolori makes an appearance about midway through the series and through the rest of the series as Sean's assistant Toby. And just to round out the family, Julius and Mason Belford play Jericho, which is the baby, and we're going to get to that in a second. So as I said kind of at the top, I don't usually do series. I just find that it's not the same thing as movies, and I was trying to stick to the movies, but I was so blown away by this series and basically everything I have watched on Apple TV that I thought I would be doing a disservice not to let you know how great these shows are. Now, they may not be for everyone, and again, it's a series, not a movie, so it is a time investment, but I was blown away by the programming on Apple TV. Now, whether that means it's a comedy like Morning Show, something thriller like Servant, or a couple of the other things we're going to get into in the next couple of episodes, I just think you're going to find, just like I did, how amazing these shows really are. So I don't think that my job in these reviews is going to be to sell you on the program. What it's going to be is to tell you what the program's about and help to guide you on whether or not it might be a good fit for you. From the beginning, this has always been about enjoyment and whether or not the movie is going to be enjoyable for the average viewer. And that's what I'm going to get into. I'm not going to do any spoiler section, but I promise you I will not give away any of the key details. I'm going to try and stick to the plot at the beginning, the first few episodes, and leave out any of those twists that may get to you by the end. So Servant. There is a lot going on, both superficially and under the surface, with this show. And I said in the opening, technology looking like magic, and religion looking like magic, and religion looking like witchcraft. Like, these are all kind of things that are going to be swirling around in your head when you finish season 1 of Servant. It's 10 episodes. The episodes run somewhere between 30, 45, I think as long as an hour-long episodes. But that's what I love is that they take whatever time they need to tell this chunk of the story, and then we move on. And they don't feel like they're held to some sort of restriction, like 22 minutes or 44 minutes or, it has to be a movie, so let's jam it all into an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I think they did a fantastic job over the course of the show, breaking it down and putting you in basically a twisted mindset of just what's real and what's not. So right from the beginning of Servant, we meet Leanne. She comes in basically at the beginning of the show, right at the top of episode 1. And what we come to learn over the course of the episode is that Sean and Dorothy Turner have had a baby, and they're bringing in a live-in nanny to help take care of the baby. Dorothy is a television personality. She is one of those reporters that the people in the studio cut to out doing something somewhere. And although you may think of this as like a throwaway, there have been, over the history of television, a lot of really famous reporters. And even now I can kind of think about, well, everyone who you think is sitting at that desk at one point was out there doing something. But some reporters decide they want to stay out there. And she's not in television, but this name comes to mind. Jane Miller from Baltimore, who has, for her entire career, a very storied career, been out in the world finding the story. So Dorothy is a reporter, and she's out of the house a lot, but obviously a few weeks after having a baby, she's ready to go back to work, and she needs an extra set of hands at home because Sean, although he is at home a lot, is not really the childcare type of dad. He is a cook or a chef. He has at times been on television as such, but now he's just basically puts together crazy concoctions. He's a gastro chef where it's like, you don't think these two things should fit together, but they do. And you put them together and they're delicious. And he basically spends his time coming up with those recipes and putting those recipes out to restaurants all over the country. And apparently, these two jobs are very lucrative because they drive an Audi and they live in Philadelphia in a row house, but like a really nice brick, nice neighborhood row house. And of course, the inside is completely done up and Sean has a man cave and there's a little office. And now they are going to have a live-in nanny who has her own quarters in the house. But what we learn as episode 1 progresses is that Jericho, the child, is not really a normal kid. And by not a normal kid, I mean he is a grief recovery doll. And it's a question that will plague you as the series goes on. What happened to Jericho that brought us to this place in episode 1? And although I'm not going to tell you, I will tell you that over the course of the episodes, you will learn what happens. It's not a secret. It's not, a cliffhanger for next season. You do find out, and it's not what you think it is, and it is heartbreaking. It is possibly one of the biggest twists in a series that is full of twists. On Leanne's first day, she's taking care of the doll and treating it like a real baby, and this is pleasing to Dorothy because Dorothy, the one who needed the grief doll, doesn't realize that it's a doll. There is one little thing I will give away just because for me, I felt my heart jump up into my throat when it happened. For the first bit of the episode, you see them talking and cooing over the baby, but you don't see the baby. And then in the middle of the night, like 4 minutes into the first episode, by the way, Sean goes into the nursery and he grabs the baby by the leg and bangs its head up against the crib on his way out. And he's basically just walking down the hallway carrying this baby upside down. And I'm just like, what have I gotten myself into? What kind of series is this that I'm watching? And that's when they do the reveal, like, oh, it's a doll, it's not a real baby. And then, cut to the next morning where Sean is trying to explain to Leanne that, this is what she needed to get by. And maybe it's gotten a little out of hand since she, hired a nanny for a doll. And Leanne is still cuddling and coddling the baby and treating it like it's real. And little bit on, a few more minutes into the episode, we hear a baby cry. And follow Sean upstairs, and what do we find? Jericho is alive. There is a real baby in the crib, and the doll is nowhere to be seen. And how is this possible? Well, that's what we're going to spend the next 9 episodes trying to find out. Clearly, it has something to do with Leanne, and her coming to the house has changed something. It changes things for good and for bad. Jericho is back, but Sean seems to be suffering some very, very weird things. He finds splinters all over his body. He's lost taste. He doesn't feel things anymore. And he was kind of a mean asshole before, but he's turned into an extra mean one now. And something says that it has everything to do with Leanne being in the house. Now, the fact that Jericho is a doll is known to very few people. It is only known to Sean, technically Dorothy, although she doesn't realize that it's not a real baby, Julian, Dorothy's brother, played by Rupert Grint, and he is as amazed as Sean was to find a living and breathing baby in the nursery. And the only other person who knows is Natalie, who's supposed to know, is Natalie, a friend of Dorothy's, whose idea it was to bring in this grief recovery doll and try to help Dorothy out of this very dark place that she found herself. Over the course, we learn that Julian, Rupert, can't keep a secret very well, and he has told a few more people. Dorothy and Julian's father is aware. There are some other people who are in and out who seem to know that something is amiss or that there was kind of a scheme going on, but they kept it hidden from most people. And now there's a real baby, and it's kind of a question. Where did the baby come from? What do we do with it? Do we show it off as if it's Jericho? Or do we, try to find the real parents? And that is not even the top tier of weird, twisted stuff that happens during this show. So I said at the beginning that it involves religion a little bit and magic. Well, again, clearly these things start happening, and when Leanne comes into the home, everyone suspects that Leanne has something to do with it. Leanne is ultra religious, and she prays all the time. She created a cross. Sean actually pricked himself with the cross, and that's when the splinters started happening. But then later on, we see Leanne is reading her Bible, and when she finds a passage that particularly moves her, she writes someone's name in the margins of the Bible, and then she prays really, really hard. And the next day, they get impacted by something. And it's very plague-like. They're obviously not all from the plagues from the Old Testament, but there's a lot of things that are just really weird and seem to be religiously related. About episode 3 or so, we've learned that Leanne practices religious self-flagellation. And this is about as far as I want to go in the series, but I do want to explain to you to give you some context while you're watching it. Flagellation is basically beating yourself with a whip. Generally speaking, you would get a leather whip that has weight on the end of it, and sometimes you would even put barbs on the end of the weight, and you would swing it over your shoulder and make sure it hits your back. And in that way, it seems a lot like punishment. If this sounds familiar for some of you, that's because essentially it started by the Passion of the Christ, which is not actually true, because that part of the story was taken from some older Greco-Roman and Egyptian belief systems about a savior who flagellates or is flagellated, and by his blood, he purifies others. So nonetheless, it really took off with Christianity and entered a spiritual aspect. So the reason I brought all of this up is because I want to have you to have that context going in, just to say, why is she doing that? Well, people self-flagellate for two reasons. Number one, as penance or purification from sin. So they do it because they believe that by punishing themselves here on earth, they won't have any punishment in heaven. And maybe that's misguided, but again, they take it out of the Passion portion of the New Testament, and they believe that they can punish their bodies and that their blood purifies the bad actions or the bad thoughts. That could be what it is. I don't think so. I think that it's number two. And number two, the reason for self-flagellation is because some people believed, including the Flagellants, which was an entire Catholic order for a long time in the 13th and 14th centuries, believed that self-flagellation brought you closer to God, and that to communicate and to commune with the divine, they had to flagellate, to feel the pain, to push down everything that was them and bring out only the soul. So essentially, you take all of the humanity and you blind it with this pain and the suffering. And when you push that down, what's left is the divine. And the divine can communicate with the divine. Now, Leanne, it's kind of questionable where she comes from. I will tell you that you'll learn about that in episode 3. Hold on, because you'll figure it out by the end. You'll figure out where she comes from. The series does leave a lot of cliffhangers towards the end, but that's not one of them. We learn a lot about Leanne. We learn a lot about Julian. We find out what happened to Jericho. We learn more about Dorothy and about Sean. All of these questions are kind of answered, and yet at the end of the series, I felt like none of my questions were answered. But I opened the episode the way that I did because my conspiracy theory, or my theory on this show, the show Servant, not this show, is that there is something religious about Leanne. And she is closer for some reason or another with the divine, and she can bring about changes in the real world. There's a lot of Messiah stuff circulating around her. Just the way that she is, very calm and even-tempered and not really emotional. And the flagellation and the things that are happening around her, which could be classified as miracles, if you really wanted to look at it that way. M. Night Shaymalan has done an amazing job here of drawing in a lot of religion, and then at some point you think maybe she's just a witch or that she's put some kind of spell on these people. You don't know. So all of that is mixing together, and I think he did a really good job of blurring the line between religion and things which we don't think of as religion, but probably are. And witchcraft is a religion to many people. Now, most of you watching this wouldn't think of it that way, but it is. And your thoughts about witchcraft being a religion are probably just as crazy as their thoughts about you following a pope in Rome or being able to commune with the divine in a prayer sort of way without sort of any other interaction. So everybody's got their own crazy stuff. And the question is, which of those crazy stuffs is applying in Servant? And I hope that we get some more answers in season 2. But as I said, I promise you a lot of your questions will be answered by the end of season 1 and maybe replaced with fresh new questions to get you ready for season 2. In any event, it was a riveting 6 to 7 hours worth of viewing. I felt like I could not stop in between episodes. I really just wanted to watch the whole thing through, and that is the kind of series that I love. One that pulls me in the same way that a movie does and makes you push through to the end to figure out what's going on. You get some of the answers, you're left wondering on a few other things, knowing that those answers will come, and you'll probably get more questions once you have those answers. So from top to bottom, Servant is a fantastic show. It is a little bit of a slow build. You have to really like thrillers. You have to like that kind of like mystery to really want to figure it out. You know, for people who like more action and, you know, those procedurals where every single episode is all wrapped up in one episode and it's the same characters, and we'll move on to the next topic next time. You may not like this as much. This really is a slow burn, and it's a slow burn over 6 hours. And along the way, you're given just enough that makes you want to keep going and not get too frustrated, but not so much that you feel like you have a good handle on what's going on. And yeah, I don't know why I would be surprised. M. Night Shaymalan is great at doing this, and he's done it in his movies for so long, and now he's done it in Servant as well. And as I said, Lauren Ambrose, a fantastic performance. Toby Kebbell, and the way that they interact with each other as a married couple, a long-term married couple, is spot on. I mean, it's not my parents, but my parents are, 35 plus years married now, so they have a whole different relationship, and I probably didn't see them when they were the way that Sean and Dorothy are. But that relationship between the two of them is so well done. And when you bring in Nell Tiger Free to that equation, and she just throws off the whole dynamic, and then at times Julian, Rupert comes in and just throws it off a different direction, you are never comfortable with where you are, and you always feel like the next thing is about to come. And the soundtrack is so fantastic. It did such a great job of basically keeping me on the edge of my seat the entire time. And the only time you get to relax is when credits are up and you're like, oh God, all right. Oh, phew. Oh, I survived that one. Okay. All right, next episode. And you just dive right back in. That is my favorite kind of show to watch. So check out Servant. It is only available on Apple TV, and it's one of the shows that's proving to me that Apple TV is worth the cost. So I think they have a free trial you can try out. This is one of the shows you should absolutely try out if you get the free trial. Otherwise, it's worth the money. Go pick up Apple TV and make sure you check out Servant today. So there you have it, yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review in the books. First up, before even the patrons, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I finally got a haircut. No, I didn't go out to a salon. If you guys come to my channel just to check out the Everyman Movie Reviews, you're not going to want to miss the video of me cutting my hair live on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. I put up a poll and said, should I wait or should I cut it now? Overwhelmingly, people said cut it. So Roxy had been hitting me up to cut my hair since she got here, and I let her do it. And you can watch the video and all the kind of ridiculousness that went on during that right here on the YouTube channel. You're going to find that video right here. And I'm going to be looking to do more videos like that. So make sure you check out all the new releases on the channel. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, one thing you won't see here on YouTube is the longer version of it, the one with bonus footage after the live stream stopped, because that is only for my patrons over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Robert N. Cheek. Some folks over there are getting behind the scenes action. They're getting exclusives that nobody will see. They're coming along with me as I write my next book. Those are all things you can experience for as little as $1. It is 100% worth it. And you can also then know that you're supporting me doing my work and everything that I'm doing. So go on over to Patreon, sign up to be a supporter, and check out all of the stuff I have going on over there. And of course, I don't want to forget about the social media. You can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, everywhere at Robert N. Cheek. I try to keep up. I try to post a lot. I have been posting an exponential amount during the George Floyd protests. So make sure you're following me to get all the latest on my life. And of course, one last thing, robertncheek.com, still under construction, but we are starting to get more content up there. If you're looking for anything about what I'm working on or what I have or what's out there in the world, you're going to find it at robertncheek.com, including all of these videos, the other videos from YouTube, the books, the screenplays, all of that. At robertncheek.com, that's the place to go. You're not going to want to miss it. And finally, if you can't get enough of me because, why would you? Make sure you're checking out the Oh the Anthem podcast. New episodes every single Tuesday at ohtheanthem.com, on YouTube at Oh the Anthem, and on anchor.fm/Oh the Anthem. Me and my buddy Corey have now done 320 plus weeks of consecutive new episodes, new material every single week. But thank you for checking out this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little break from everything that's going on in the world around us, and that it lets you recharge and give yourself a little self-care. Make sure you come back. New episodes every Thursday and one day in between, plus other stuff that's going on that's not the reviews. Make sure you turn on the notifications. It'll let you know whenever I post something new. And until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.